sure it was a lot, and it didn't run on that.
I just.
That hard change.
Yeah.
If we didn't have the last meeting here, we wouldn't have known then.
Now we're good. No, it was lost on here.
Okay. I don't need to see it.
I don't think so.
We're all sitting in front of it.
Yeah, last one in. So. The old corners line up for bands today.
Oh, yeah?
Must have 6 or 7 big bands. And then they had them up on it, there's just half a dozen.
Yeah.
Did we lose it?
We're live.
Oh, we're on?
Yeah, we're live.
All right, then here. We'll call the regular meeting of City Council for April 3rd, 2023. Please rise for a moment of silence, followed by the pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Byerly. Councilmember Conklin.
Here.
Councilmember Missouri. Here. Councilmember Stevenson.
Here.
Councilmember Brinker.
Here.
Councilmember Morris.
Here.
Mayor Long.
Here. Before we go further, I'll announce that we had an executive session before this meeting to discuss some legal issues. Approval of the minutes.
Move approval.
Second.
A motion for and a second. Any further discussion? Call for the vote.
Councilmember Byerly, or Councilmember Conklin.
Yes.
Councilmember Missouri. Yes. Councilmember Stevenson.
Yes.
Councilmember Brinker.
Yes.
Councilmember Morris.
Yes.
Mayor Long.
Yes. Public comments and requests, comments from the residents and city taxpayers. Anyone has anything that they'd like to say? You can. Your name, please.
Hello, I'm Carrie Robbins. I live at 30 Chapman Drive here in Lock Haven. And I do have something to share. So I understand I have 3 minutes, so I probably should read this. I live here with my husband Ken. We moved here 3 years ago, actually 3 years, November. So we're gonna retire here and I wanted to get involved in the community. So as we get ready to celebrate the truth of Easter, I wanted to let you know that the whole month of April has been set aside for churches and communities to celebrate their faith. A federal congressional statement has been officially introduced in the last couple of years, declaring April as Faith Month. Senator Cindy Hyde Smith of Mississippi and Mary Miller of Illinois, who entered a proclamation into the official record to declare April as Faith Month. I would love for our community here to become more aware of this so that we can use the opportunity to let others know about their freedom. More than 70% of Americans consider themselves religiously affiliated. We're proud of our faith and our Judeo-Christian heritage, and this month, millions will be celebrating the holiest time of the year through Holy Week, Easter, and the Passover. I learned about the initiative from Concerned Women of America, a Christian organization of which I am part of, encouraging its members to fly the Christian flag in their homes and their desktops and their car windows. Faith Month encourages people of all faiths to celebrate their beliefs, but the initiative presents an excellent opportunity for us as Christians to bring a positive message of our love of God and our neighbors, and the fact that we are not ashamed of the gospel, because it's the power of God that brings salvation to everyone who believes. So with everything that's going on in our culture, I'm impressed to share hope to our community that flying the Christian flag. As you can see, there are 3 colors on the flag, red, white, and blue, much like our American flag. And I do have it here if you would like to see it. The ground is white, representing peace, purity, and innocence. And the blue represents fidelity to the Christian faith, holding fast to our faith in Christ. And the red cross represents and reminds us of the blood of Christ shed for the atonement of all sin and for all who believe. So with your permission, I would like to fly the Christian flag at the Triangle Park for the month of April. Thank you.
Well, we can't make that decision tonight. Anything that we would vote on, we have to have ahead of time and put it on the agenda so other people know that we're considering something like that. I would suggest that you speak to the Director of Community Life, Casey, for any of the requests like that, we'll fill out the request and then it comes to council after she's vetted the process. Okay, thank you. Anyone else? Yes.
Hi, I'm Paula Nyhart. I'm owner and operator of the Bus Stop Speeder, which is a business on Main Street. I'm here in response to a message from Kara, a downtown manager, in response to police asking for their support and not having the state police monitor the streets at night, but rather that they do. I have had some less than fortunate incidences, both in my store and around the store. I'm there alone. In the wintertime when it's dark, I have had people hanging out by the dumpster, right by where I park my car. In response to that, I had Lieutenant Gregory with a quick response. I had Private Coder as well, and a visit from Police Chief Rickard. They were very responsive, listened to my concerns, and said they would act upon them. My real concern is that if any of the elements of society who are now beginning to be less than favorable begin to get the idea that the city police, and we all have a relationship with, are not available during the evening or night hours, they may quickly take advantage of that, and we will lose our lovely Lock Haven, and it will be far less safe. We'll end up being reactive instead of proactive, and we will have a crisis to address. I'm hopeful that that will be looked at seriously, and that you will consider letting the city police in their jobs. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
So I'll go to follow up with Ms. Paula. I did not really know anything about this. I was asked by Officer Brimley to reach out to the to reach out to the businesses to see what their input was regarding this. I only have so many businesses that are on my messenger, so there was roughly, I want to say 18 to 20 on the messenger app. He was recommending that I was supposed to be subpoenaed to then present what the businesses wanted. And then this is how this all started. Then I got notified that that would not happen, which I was super thankful because the Easter event was Friday. And it worked out in its best. It worked out better that way. I do have some comments that I wrote from numerous businesses that they did not want this to happen. I do not know if you want me to read all of those from that. But the one that I feel is really important is a business in town that is considered a high-risk business that cannot be insured by a local insurance agent because of the value of items in her business. Now has to adjust her door entrance, has to have key and lock or a code to get in, is considering hiring guards and was going to talk to other businesses to see if they could possibly go in on that. I double checked everything with the local insurance agent that yes, they do look at police coverage, fire coverage. So she's going to be in the whole $7,000 if this goes through, and then her insurance premiums go up after every incident. We have 2 businesses like this in town that could affect. I'm not sure about the other businesses because again, I don't know what their insurance coverages are. I'm here just stating numerous businesses that they did not want this to happen. As well as I had a petition with 40 signatures placed in my mailbox of residents that live in Lock Haven, work in Lock Haven, or some that work in just Lock Haven, regarding this, which was done in a matter of 24 hours. So that's really what it comes down to. And then on a side note, I'm sorry that the inflatables are not in Triangle Park. It was super windy Saturday, super windy Sunday, but yes, the Easter inflatables will hopefully be there. I wanted to do that today, but I just left work now. So hopefully tomorrow those will be in there. So I know that was voted on before and no problem not be happening. They got vetoed against it.
Yeah.
So,
Thank you. Anyone else?
Who vetoed it? I'm just curious. The
Um,
kids or?
the superintendent and the principal. They were concerned about safety. The students that asked for the request, we reassured them that safety would not be an issue because just like the regatta has probation. Am I right, Casey? I don't know, police probation that are there during the regatta. We could ask if that could happen, but it wasn't enough. You had to vet orders, okay, yeah. But that wasn't, they were looking at more of concern. That's all the info I really got. I never followed up with it because there's so much going on.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Thank you. Anyone else? Thank you. We'll move on to the agenda.
You want me to do something like this?
You can.
I like this.
4B, consideration LHU band use of Triangle Park.
Dr. Grass is requesting use of Triangle Park on Wednesday, April 19th from 4:30 to 6 p.m. for an outdoor concert that would be free to the public. They did this last year as well, just kind of get people, the community more involved with the LHU concert band. And I'll work with them on organizing that.
And there's also a resolution for a banner as well. We want to do that
And
all.
they want to have a banner hung, for their president's concert on May 4th.
We want to do that all as one motion. Do I have a motion?
So move.
Second.
Motion on the floor and a second. Any further comments or questions? Call for the vote.
Councilmember Conklin,
Yes.
Councilmember Missouri,
Yes.
Councilmember Stevenson,
Yes.
Councilmember Brinker,
Yes.
Councilmember Morris.
Yes.
Mayor Long.
Yes. 4C, consideration KCSD and LHU homecoming parade. And also a resolution for that.
Yep, are we doing all that all in one too?
Yeah, we can do that all at once.
So Keystone Central, is requesting to hold their parade on Thursday, September 21st. And I'll work with them if they need help with their PennDOT permits. And they're usually really good with getting the fire police and everything like that. And then they're also requesting to hang a banner from September 13th through 25th for homecoming.
What's the wish, council?
Second.
Motion on the floor and a second. Any further discussion, questions? Call for the vote.
Councilmember Conklin,
Yes.
Councilmember Missouri,
Yes.
Councilmember Stevenson,
Yes.
Councilmember Brinker,
Yes.
Councilmember Morris,
Yes.
Mayor Long.
Yes. 4D, consideration of 2024 Fire on the Rocks.
Craig Fleming with PA Trail Dogs is requesting use of Zindle Park for the 2024 Fire on the Rocks 10K on March 16th. And this will be pending, the route and everything will be pending the construction that's going on. So right now, we're just requesting permission for the date, and then as we get closer, we'll reevaluate and see if it's possible, but they won't be able to advertise for next year.
Thanks. What's the wish of council?
I move approval. I second.
Motion on the floor and a second. Any questions, comments?
I have a procedural question. Can I vote on this since it will take place after I've left council?
Yeah, we can make the approval now, so.
Okay.
Any other questions? Call for the vote.
Councilmember Conklin,
Yes.
Councilmember Missouri,
Yes.
Councilmember Stevenson,
Yes.
Councilmember Brinker,
Yes.
Councilmember Morris,
Yes.
Mayor Long.
Yes. Do we have any other requests? Greg, anything else?
I have none, Your Honor.
Thank you. We'll move on to unfinished business. 5A, consideration of ordinance number 2023-03.
This is the second reading for the standards for stormwater management. This is just as a clarification, we did receive a couple inquiries on that. Most of them were technical, but one of the main inquiries is retroactive. This is for any improvements that take place after this goes into effect. We're not going backwards in time and undoing what people have done, but as people make improvements to their stormwater, which predominantly this has an effect on new construction. And so that is part of the municipal planning code. This is done to DEP standard. It remains relatively unchanged from the first reading and has been duly advertised.
What's the wish of council?
Move ordinance 2023-03.
Have a motion
I'll second.
and a second. Questions, comments?
I suppose I could extend my apologies to council for wasting their time blathering about riparian gutters last meeting. That language comes straight out of the Pennsylvania Code, so there would be no possibility of changing it, even though it's gibberish. Well, I do have one other question. On Article 7 prohibitions A and B, how is B different from A?
What is the number? What's the order?
Section 701, A and B. I think I've answered my own question. B has a couple of exceptions that are not in A, but it seems to me that the sentiment is otherwise exactly the same.
It's the standard model from DEP, which is also the state, which also likes words.
Well, there you go. I rest my case.
Anything else?
No.
Any other questions, comments? Call for the vote.
Councilmember Conklin,
Yes.
Councilmember Missouri,
Yes.
Councilmember Stevenson,
Yes.
Councilmember Brinker,
Yes.
Councilmember Morris,
Yes.
Mayor Long.
Yes. 5B, consideration of resolution number 2023-11.
This is the resolution that sets the fee for the ordinance that you just adopted. All of those fees really are the actual cost of the city, just to reimburse that cost to the city with the exception of the administrative filing fee. That is set by the resolution, and that will help offset the cost of advertising that will need to be done for anything that requires public comment.
Do I have a motion?
I move the resolution.
Second.
Motion floor and a second. Further questions, comments on the motion? Call for the vote.
Councilmember Conklin,
Yes.
Councilmember Missouri,
Yes.
Councilmember Stevenson,
Yes.
Councilmember Brinker,
Yes.
Councilmember Morris,
Yes.
Mayor Long.
Yes. 5C, consideration of ordinance number 2023-04.
This is the second reading of an ordinance to amend chapter 328 sewers to provide standards for inspection and installation of the same.
What's the wish of council?
Move ordinance 2023 also.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Motion for and a second. Further discussion, questions, comments?
I have a question. If we pass this ordinance tonight, tomorrow morning, how many properties in the city will be in compliance?
Mr. Public Works?
Are you referring to the transfer property?
No, I'm just referring in general to how many.
We wouldn't know until we do inspections, because once it leaves the right of way, we don't do inspections right now.
My concern is that almost no properties would be in compliance, essentially outlawing the city's properties. But and there is no way to know that without exposing the lateral, is that right?
Correct.
So I do have a concern, and it's a minor concern, but it relates to the transfer of property. There are, I think, probably about 15 properties in the city that are currently listed for sale. There's a handful of them, maybe only 2 or 3, that are actually under contract. We're imposing on the sellers of those properties the obligation to expose their lateral and almost certainly replace it. That is a cost that was probably not budgeted for. And since the properties are under contract and therefore their relative responsibilities of the buyers and sellers have been established, we're essentially interfering with the terms of that contract.
We would be doing a televising of the line. We have a camera that can go up and down through.
Right.
So that's how we would do that inspection. That only would go, our camera only reaches 100 feet.
And the camera inspection would satisfy the functionality of the system.
Yeah.
But we won't know how it's constructed. So we won't know whether the construction of the current system meets the standard in this ordinance.
We would know if it's brought up to code with plastic
Without exposing it.
by using the camera.
Also, as long as the ordinance does say enacted immediately, it doesn't actually mean immediately, it means 20 days from now. So if those that are under contract complete that within 20 days.
I have a concern that we've imposed an unexpected cost on what is admittedly only a handful of people, but I don't think we should be doing that.
And how do you propose that we get around it? I mean, if it's a problem that exists in the city, you know, that could be a problem for the future property owners. When exactly, how do you do it and not have it be what you're concerned about?
Well, I can't eliminate the concern, I can mitigate it. And the way in which I think I would do that is to make this ordinance effective on whatever the date is, with the exception of section 328(8), which would take effect 90 days from adoption of the ordinance. That at least gives people a cushion to adjust their budgets and figure out how they're going to get this done.
Staff see a problem with that anyway.
I would say no, because it adds more leniency. So that's in the best interest of the resident.
Okay, and we have a motion on the floor. I believe you made that motion. Are you willing to amend it to include Morris's request.
I am, if you can. If you can. Explain to me how you want that worded in that section 328.
Oh, I think what we would do is say enacted immediately by city council upon adoption, save for section 328(8), which will take effect 90 days thereafter.
Okay. I am in agreement to that friendly amendment.
Okay, and was it Barb that seconded it, or you were in agreement as well?
Yes.
All right, we have an amended motion. Any other questions or comments? Call for the vote, please.
Councilmember Conklin,
Yes.
Councilmember Missouri,
Yes.
Councilmember Stevenson,
Yes.
Councilmember Brinker.
Yes.
Councilmember Morris.
Yes.
Mayor Long.
Yes. Thank you for discussion. You want to further-
Sorry,
Oh,
What are you sorry about?
I made a note to ask a question and I forgot to ask it.
Well, we just passed the ordinance now, so it's a little late.
It's a point of interest.
Okay.
Information only. Who's the city's surge enforcement officer?
Tony.
The Public Works Director.
You got 140, on average, 141 properties change hands in a year in the city. You got 141 inspections, possibly 282 if you go and find it's not working, and then you got to go back again. That's okay.
Fortunately, our sewer collections foreman is also DEP certified in wastewater treatment collection.
Anything else, Mr. Morris?
No, I'm sorry about that.
Oh, that's fine. 5D, continued consideration of the 2023 capital improvement program.
What's that, Lamb Chop, the song that never ends? Capital improvement is always something that we discuss in the spring from the money set aside by city council. As part of that discussion this year, I would like to revisit the water capital improvements that we talked about a couple of weeks ago. In order to accomplish the Zindel Park bridges that need to be replaced, and in order to do the permanent financing for the 2022B, which was borrowed last year, which comes due this year, of $1 million, that's the permanent financing for the work that's already been done for the well exploration. As well as there's $218,000 that the Penvest for all phase one will not cover potentially. So those would be wrapped into borrowing that will be presented to you for your consideration, not to be voted on, but for your information at the next meeting. That's about $1.2 million worth of improvements. Generally speaking, and then including the debt, that needs to be paid off comes to 2.1 million. And so most of that, with the exception of the wells, most of that is a city only debt because it has to do with investments in Zindel Park, which is owned solely by the city. So that will be something that'll be on the next agenda for your discussion. Reminding you that the next meeting does take place at Hand in Hand Hose Company.
For those of you who want to come with us on the show on the road.
Council on the road.
Yeah.
That takes us to general fund capital projects, to revisit that, which was provided to council last week. I did make a couple updates. The city planners applied for a grant. I get them backwards all the time, but I believe she applied for a stamp grant for 50% of the cost of the zoning ordinance update, the update to the personnel manual, and the potential facility study. And applying to stamp will pay for 50% of that. She does believe that it'll be eligible. The other 50% would be a different grant through DCED. So we may be able to get all three of those done at no cost to the city, which would be fantastic. The zoning ordinance update is about a $70,000 project. So to have the state pick up that tab with people's state tax dollars would be great. When you look at that. The largest expenditure really this year and next year goes for the Green Light Go. Traffic signal replacements, that's a grant that the city got. The state pays a share of those improvements and the city has to pay a share of those. You can see what those dollar amounts are for 2023 and 2024. So when you look at 2023 and it says there are $264,000 left in the capital projects fund for the general fund, it should be noted that by the end of 2024, that's actually $65,000 as a whole. So money does have to be put into the capital projects fund next year just to true that up. Most of that coming from the city share of Hoberman Park, which is $128,000 out of 1.9 million in improvements, and the Green Light Go projects. Councilman Brinker had brought up an interest in having a discussion about the alleys. And welcome that discussion. I do know that none of the alleys in the city are eligible under liquid fuels for us to use that money, which is already dedicated to the Sunset Pines improvements. Talking to the Director of Public Works earlier today, if you go online and you look up alternatives to paving, especially pervious alternatives to paving, you'll get 30 or 40 different returns on that with ingenious new products that people have developed. And one discussion that we had today was potentially doing some RFP, dividing the alleys into different types. So alleys that are not inclined, alleys on an incline that are in residential or commercial areas, putting out an RFP and trying to see who would provide their product back to say this is the best product for that type of installation. Council would then be able to review those, potentially make a decision on the type they'd like to go with in each different area. We could get bid specs ready for those, and green infrastructure is part of the bipartisan infrastructure law. So no one's really sure how to get their hands on that money yet. DCD is doubling its staff in planning in order to help local municipalities get their hands on that. But one thing we do know is if your project is ready to bid, you are likely going to get the funding. So the more we can get a jump on that, the better off we may be. It is a hot item to take pervious installation throughout communities because it does reduce the amount of stormwater runoff. So it does have some benefits. Certainly what you're looking for in a residential area is not going to have to be as durable as what you're looking in a commercial area. Maybe the weight doesn't have to be the same, it could be lighter. Probably the heaviest thing to go down a residential alley is a dump truck that's full. Garbage truck. But you'll see heavier vehicles than that going down the alleys just behind Dollar General, you know, their tractor trailer, I won't say. But it might be a nice way to see some of the new ingenuity that's come out. Have council be able to review some of that and see if you would make a recommendation on which would be good products to go with. We can, because whatever product it is, there's probably 16 people who make each one of those. So doing a bid for that would definitely be ready to bid project that everybody's looking for, shovel in the ground. So we can try to work with the city planner and get a jump on that, and the GIS tech and the Director of Public Works have already done a lot of work measuring the alleys. So at least that much is accomplished, so we have some good surface area.
Thank you. And then even in addition, if the weight bearing of some areas, we might have to put restrictions on alleys with garbage trucks and so forth in the future, so.
See, there are a lot of great projects, products out there. Of course, to me, nothing beats brick. I'm old timey and from Northwest Pennsylvania where we still use that.
Yeah, well, thank you.
Any other input on this? Okay. Do we have any other unfinished business?
I have none, Your Honor.
Okay, new business 6A, consideration of resolution number 2023-12.
This is what has become an annual request for the temporary closure of Sarah's Alley, which is the alley between, what's that? No, it's not one. Rachel K Creation used to be the Strauss Law Firm and Stella A's. And Stella A's would like to have a portion of that closed to use as eating and dining for their restaurant outdoors.
I move approval.
Motion
I second.
and a second. Any further discussion?
I'm not good on inclusive and exclusive reckoning, but isn't this 92 days?
Yeah, I think we can only do it for 3 months at a time, and then they have to do it again.
I think we adjusted it last year to be only for 90 days.
Well, July 30th is technically 90, but I didn't think that the long arm law, which is me, would come down on you too hardly. You will have renewed it by that point, because it will have to be renewed in July if you choose to renew it.
Okay.
Okay. Call for the vote.
Councilmember Conklin,
Yes.
Councilmember Missouri,
Yes.
Councilmember Stevenson.
Yes,
Councilmember Brinker,
Yes.
Councilmember Morris.
Yes.
Mayor Long.
Yes. 6B, EP notification.
Well, I would speak to this, however, the Director of Public Works had the good fortune last week of going to the Pennsylvania Rural Water, where he learned from people like those at Win Dobson and Foreman who provided this to you. Want to kind of sum up the,
Yeah, so the PFAS MCL rule, PFAS is considered a regular chemical, so it's something that can't be treated, this can't go away. So what they're doing is making filtration plants, test water going out, make sure the quantity's there, they now have testing capability for that quantity. What we learned last week is over the course of the next 5 years, they're gonna really try to get that number. I think they're testing 4 parts per trillion right now. They're gonna try to get that down to 0 the best as they can. There are some pre-treatment technology out there to reduce that. But things like, I think starting here, should say here when it starts, this year, next year, so they'll have to start testing. It reduces it, but right now, if you look at our water quality report, we don't have anything to worry about. Yeah.
is a bit of a blessing of having surface water, but the testing is a requirement of the filtration plant, not the city, so it will add to the expense of operation that the city reimburses the filtration plant. And that's your,
Thank you. 6C, notification of annual allocations.
this is so that the minutes will reflect the generous donation from the Clinton County Community Foundation from 2 funds that they have invested, the proceeds of which go to the city, the Hoberman Trust, which helps support Hoberman Park. And that was a grant of $543 this year, and the Stephen Foreman Small Business Development Fund, which this year had a grant of $667.
Any other new business?
I had none, Your Honor.
Okay, FYIs and reports, the old phase 1.
Full phase 1 update is in your packet for the most recent week, and a variety of information from the Clinton County Sewer Authority.
Anything else?
I have nothing, Your Honor.
Does anyone else have anything to bring before council this evening? Do I have a motion to adjourn?
You did.
We're adjourned. Thank you, everyone. Thanks for coming. Nice to see you around here.
That was great.